Okay, another edition of Anabolic Academy. This is where you send me questions about bodybuilding and fitness via Instagram or my email, and then I answer them. So I got a lot of questions. I got some great questions today. If you haven't seen this yet, my Instagram is Serious and Silliness. My email is john_olivia@yahoo. And I also have another email, unclejohn1201@gmail. So why don't we just jump right in? The first question is from the dancing publisher, Katie. Katie is my editor. So all the fun thumbnails and editing and things you see on my bodybuilding videos, she's the one that does it. And she's excellent at it. Anyway, her question is, how do bodybuilders stay flexible and not get muscle bound? It's actually really easy. It's stretching. I will be the first to say not enough bodybuilders do enough stretching, but stretching is actually what makes the joint flexible, because you have to stretch the soft tissue around the joint, the ligaments, the tendons, and the muscle. That's really it. There were plenty of bodybuilders that were very flexible, and they could do splits and have done martial arts and things that need to be flexible, but the large majority of bodybuilders probably don't do enough stretching. I am one of those. I don't do enough stretching. I might stretch a little bit before and a little bit after, just so I don't cramp up and I loosen up the muscle a little bit. I'll stretch a little bit before, then I'll do warm-up sets, and that'll be my warm-up before I actually go into my workout routine. But other than that, I don't do much stretch. I should do a lot more. And I think a lot of us are guilty of that. Okay, let's go into the Instagram questions. And the first Instagram question is from Justin Walker 160. Justin, thank you again for sending me some questions. Who's the best IFBB open men's bodybuilding poser in history, in your opinion? All right, I'm going to have a biased opinion because I always enjoyed the bodybuilders that were entertaining on stage. So I always liked the King Kamalis, or who was the other guy? Shit, what was his name? Vince Taylor. I always liked the King Kamalis and the Vince Taylor that would come out on stage. Fred Smalls is another guy that I enjoy watching pose because they're entertaining, and they get up there and they're able to, dance and move like robots, and it's entertaining. Obviously, that's not really poses, they're entertainers. But there were great posers during the golden age that were able to show their positives of their body and hide the negatives, if you will. And every transition into the next pose was so fluid because they knew that all eyes are on you at all times. So even they're transitioning into the next pose. So guys like Frank Zane, Franco Colombo was a great poser. Who else? Flex Wheeler was a great poser. I mean, I'm probably missing people because I never really got into how great a poser is. Like I said, I've always liked the entertaining guys much better as posers. I mean, you want to see entertaining, go watch a Mike Matarazzo when he posed. I mean, he went nuts. He had this hard heavy metal music, and he would go crazy. To me, that was fun. To me, that was, that's bodybuilding. It's hardcore. But that's my answer. So the next question from Justin Walker is, if there are transgender people that would like to be bodybuilders, should they have their own division? Ugh. All right. Let them start their own bodybuilding. The one thing that I always loved about bodybuilding, here's the one thing I always loved about bodybuilding. It was just about bodybuilding, and it's a niche sport, and the group always ignored nonsense. And yeah, I believe that trans women, which are biological men that go into women's sports, is nonsense because they clearly have an advantage. And they would clearly have an advantage in bodybuilding, which is ridiculous. Think of a mid-level men's bodybuilder decides, I'm a woman now and I'm going to be a woman's bodybuilder. Like think of him like a Joe Seaman or an Eric Wood or Nate Spear, right? They're not top 10 Olympians, but if they decide they're a woman and go in, they would be Miss Olympia. I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? But what I mean by bodybuilding always ignored the nonsense was there was never real racism in bodybuilding, which I loved. It was all about training and training hard. And if you were a good bodybuilder, and nobody, I mean, early on, in the 80s and the early 90s, it started becoming more acceptable to be gay. But Chris Dickerson was a gay bodybuilder, and he was Mr. Olympia in the early 80s. And like nobody gave a shit. In bodybuilding, women's bodybuilding, they work real hard, and they deserve their part of that title, Miss Olympia, or whatever, Wings of Strength. And I don't believe a trans person should come into women's bodybuilding and dominate like they do other sports, which I think is outlawed now, right? I don't think they do it in college and pro level anymore. I think it's out, but I might be wrong. But that's my opinion. If trans people want to be bodybuilders, go and start your own division, right? Leave my sport alone. And I'm sure there are probably plenty of other people that agree with me, but don't want to say it. But the one thing that has happened is that never infiltrated bodybuilding, and neither did being gay, and neither did being Black or Hispanic. I mean, the number 2 Mr. Olympia was Sergio Oliva Sr. I mean, if you didn't know he was Cuban, he looked Black, right? But he was Cuban. Nobody cared. It was who was the best on stage. That's what I always loved about bodybuilding, because that's how I feel inside. I don't care what you are, but if it becomes to the point where it's unfair, like, a trans man wanting to go into a biological woman's bodybuilding contest, then that's ridiculous. And as it is ridiculous in any other sport, right? And then it's just unfair. Okay. And if you want to tell me that being trans and being Black or being gay or being Hispanic, that it's the same as far as accepting people, no, it's not. Okay. You chose to put on a wig and be a woman. Black people did not choose their skin color. Gay people did not choose their sexual preference, but you chose to put on a wig and go into whatever woman's sports and dominate, like the guy who became a trans woman and dominated women's swimming, or like Fallon Fox that went into MMA and destroyed all those girls, right? It was just ridiculous. Next question, Justin Walker 160. How much PED supplements do bodybuilders consume with their diet and training usually? Okay, I'm going to give you my experience. This doesn't mean that other bodybuilders do less or more. This is just from my experience. The few national level and pros that I do know intimately where they would tell me something like this. Here is generally what they use. And this is only my experience. I can't tell you about everybody, right? Or about what the top 5 in the Olympia take. I have no clue. Normally, it's anywhere between 750 milligrams to 1,500 milligrams of testosterone. Usually 1,000, 1,200 seems to be the sweet spot of testosterone. And that's always the base. Then they usually throw in some kind of anabolic like a DECA or an EQ. And that's usually around 600. Then it's usually they add an oral, whatever oral that they like to take, whether it's Anavar, D-bol, Anadrol, whichever one they like to take, they might mix and match. And that's anywhere from 50 milligrams to 100. I've heard as many as 150 milligrams a day. And then growth hormone, 4 units of growth a day, 2 in the morning, 2 at night. That's what I can answer you. I know that the growth hormone goes up when they start using insulin, but I've never used insulin. I never asked about how insulin works. I really am not that educated on how insulin works. You'd have to ask somebody like Milos or Dave Palumbo. Those are pretty much the 2 experts, Danny Broadhurst, the guy who used to be on here, Milos, he knew it. He was great at the insulin protocol, but we still talk, by the way. I was on the phone with him last week, but I don't know too much. But the basics, that seems to be the basics. of a bodybuilding PED use. Next question. Do you think Kai Green will return to the Mr. Olympia to compete in my opinion? No. Don't think Kai Green will ever return to the Mr. Olympia. I don't think Kai Green will ever be on stage again. I don't know why Kai Green is still massive. Looks like he's in his off season as a bodybuilder. He's got to be getting close to 50 years old. It can't be healthy anymore. I mean, usually bodybuilders that retire, like a Jay Cutler or Dorian or Branch Warren or any of the top level bodybuilders, once they retire, there's no reason to be 300 pounds of muscle anymore, especially as you get older. That's a lot of weight, and it's a lot of stress on your heart and your liver and kidneys. You know, when you're young and you're in your 20s and your 30s and maybe even into your early 40s, your body could tolerate that. Once you start getting into your mid, late 40s, early 50s, your body really can't tolerate that. And if you notice the bodybuilders that have long careers into their 50s, they're not big bodybuilders. They're not 300-pound freaks. Dexter or Kamal El-Gardni. These guys are smaller bodybuilders. They don't have that much stress on their body like a 300-pound bodybuilder would. So they're able to
have a longer span.
A career. That is my guess as to why those guys have a longer career span, because it gets to the point where it becomes unhealthy and dangerous carrying around 300 pounds of muscle when you're supposed to be 200 pounds, right? Because your body's not built for 200 pounds. Your skeletal structure is not built for 200 pounds. Your organs aren't built for 200 pounds. So I don't know why Kai Green is still doing this. It's at the point where it's actually ridiculous. He just guest posed, and I'm not into his strange guest posing thing with the masks and the different outfits. I'm not in that. To me, that does nothing for me. I'm not into that, like, as we spoke before. But no, I don't think we are ever going to see him on a bodybuilding stage again. I think he likes to tease, because every time he's asked the question, he, dances around the question. I think he likes to tease the crowd and stay relevant. I think that's how he likes to stay relevant. Next question from Justin Walker 160. In the open women's bodybuilding, which athletes will place top 5 at this year's Ms. Olympia? Okay, well, I don't think the top 4 slots are going to change much. So you're going to have Andrea Shaw, Angela Yao, Hella Trevino, Margie Martin. I think the 5th spot is up for grabs, because you have, I think, Natalia that just won the New York Pro. I think she's possibility moving that far. She's good. Bronca, I'm gonna butcher her last name. I'm not gonna. There's another Michaela. These are the girls that are always in like that 5-6 spot mix. So that's when it starts getting dicey. But I think that the top 4 are gonna stay right there. From what I know from my experience. All right. Justin Walker 160, name the athletes who will place in the top 5 at this year's Mr. Olympia, and also who you think will win. All right. One who I think will win. Okay. I thought early in the year that Hadi was going to repeat, and it still might be possible that Hadi show up and will repeat. But after seeing the posing between Derek Lunsford and Samson Dowda, I mean, I know they're in their off season. There's no reason to think Derek is not going to come in shape, because he comes in shape every year. I think Derek is going to win this year. And I think Derek could be the next dominant Mr. Olympia, because he's flawless. He's massive. If anybody saw that video with him and Samson, Samson's a 320-pound bodybuilder, and he's 5'11". And Derek, who was, let's not forget, 212 Olympia champ, okay, looked just as big, if not bigger, from the back. I mean, it was amazing. He was able to stand next to Samson, who was a mass monster, and look just as big and from the back bigger. It was unbelievable. So that changed my mind, along with my friend Luke, who was an IFBB pro, who was on Muscle Talk with me last week. He made a great point. And he said that we need a good ambassador for the sport. Mr. Olympia needs to be a good ambassador for the sport and be able to travel and promote the sport. And Hadi can't do that because he lives in Iran. It's very difficult for him to come here, get visas, and go to Canada and go here and go to the UK. It's very, very difficult. He probably endorses the sport he probably promotes the sport great in the Middle East, but the rest of the globe counts. And it's very difficult when you're in a position that he's in. With Derek, being that he's an American citizen, will be able to travel anywhere and be able to promote the sport. So I think Derek is going to win. And I don't think, I think Derek will legitimately win, right? I think it's a bonus that he is going to be able to promote the sport. But I think Derek has all the tools to win the Olympia and be a dominant Mr. Olympia for the next, 5-7 years or so. And I think we are going to see Derek, Nick, and Samson battling out for 1, 2, and 3 for the next few years. I think those guys are going to be the new Kai, Phil, Roden, Dennis, right? Where they were all battling it out. Or if you want to go earlier, Ronnie, Jay, Sean Ray, Kevin Levrone, Flex, where they were all battling it out. You didn't know who was, Ronnie was always number 1, but you didn't know who was going to come at 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that's going to be the formula. I think there are going to be plenty of other bodybuilders that are nipping at their heels as well. As far as the top 5, I think it's not going to be much of a difference. I think it's going to be Derek. I think it's going to be Hadi. I think it's going to be Nick. I think it's going to be Samson. I think it's going to be, I think Ramey's going to drop off a lot. I think we might see guys like Andrew Jacked jump up. And I might be forgetting people, but I think that's the way it's going to go. Let's see. Okay. Next question. I'm going to butcher this name, and I apologize because I do keep in touch with him on Instagram. Reitkowski Lucas. I'm sorry if I butcher your name, bro. I really apologize. I know you and I talk on Instagram and on Facebook, but I apologize if I ruined your name. What's your current diet look like, and how many meals you eat per day? Okay, well, first of all, I'm not a competitive bodybuilder anymore. I haven't been any in a long time, and so I don't consume nearly as many calories as I used to. But in the morning, I usually have like either a shake or oatmeal. Sometimes I have a protein bar and an oatmeal, so on and so forth. I go to work. Lunch is at 11, and that's when I usually have chicken, fish, turkey. I try to stay away from the red meat a lot of it actually. Rice, sweet potatoes, some kind of greens. Then I'm able to eat again around 2:30, same kind of meal. Then I come home, I have a shake with peanut butter, and then I go to the gym, and then I have another shake with, my shake is always 2 scoops of whey, isolate, peanut butter or almond butter, oatmeal, banana, right after I train. I still train. I think I still train pretty hard. I can't go as heavy as I used to, but I still get in there and train pretty hard as I'm going right after we finish this. Next question. Joan Ramadeen, who's my friend in India. Derek physique is insane. I think he will win Mr. Olympia this year. And he calls me Uncle John, so I like him. I think so too. I think Derek can win. I don't think it's going to be easy. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Hadi, takes it a second time, but I don't think Hadi's going to take it more than twice. But with the way Derek's looking, like as I said before, I'll put my money on Derek this year. Next question. Fran is the man. Does your spouse also compete and follow the fitness industry like you do? She does not compete. She follows the fitness industry because I'm into it. So she'll sit there and watch the Arnold Classic with me or watch the Olympia. The smaller shows she won't watch with me. She knows the bigger names because I'm into it. She does go to the gym. She does keep herself in shape. She has to go early in the morning because she owns a hair salon and she opens at 10 a.m. So she has to go early unless she's off, obviously. So we can't go together because I go at night and she goes in the morning. But no, she doesn't. She never competed, and she probably never will, as she told me that. And that's about it. Okay, next question. Fran is the man. What are your PR numbers for the big three lifts, squat, bench, and deadlift? I was never a strong bodybuilder. Okay, my PRs are, for me, very good. And maybe compared to the average guy in the gym, very good. But compared to like national level or pro level bodybuilders, it's not even close, right? So my best bench was 405. I was always better with dumbbells for some reason. I was actually at my peak and my best. I was able to, I think I got like 150-pound dumbbell flat press for a few reps. I believe I still have the video, right? So I kept it. My deadlift was never really that good. I always had a lower back bump. So if I deadlifted, I would do a sumo deadlift, or a lot of times I did rack pulls. I'd maybe go to four plates and quarters tops, for reps. My squat was always my strongest lift. The most I ever squatted was 545, full squat, knees wrapped, belt, blah, blah, blah. Those are always that was always my best lift. And I always admired strong guys, even strong girls, because I was always, even though I love bodybuilding, I was always a big fan of powerlifting too. And if you watch my old channel, I had interviewed plenty of other powerlifters, because I was just always a huge fan of bodybuilding and powerlifting, rather. I apologize, powerlifting, because I was always in awe of strength, because I always wanted to be big and strong. And I'm not a big guy. I'm 5'8". I'm probably 200 pounds right now. When I graduated high school, I was like, I don't know, 165, 170, something like that. And the biggest I ever got was like 230, 235 when I was on my off season trying to compete. That was about it. So I was never a massive guy to begin with, but I was strong for my body weight and strong to the average guy in the gym, right? But compared to, bodybuilders, powerlifters, are not even close, right? All right, that'll do it for Anabolic Academy. I appreciate all the questions. Thank you very much. This is going to be a bit of a slow week. I'm pretty sure we have the Orlando Pro coming up. So I'm definitely going to do a review of the Orlando Pro. And I'm definitely going to do a wrap up of the Orlando Pro. Muscle Talk will not be on this week. Unfortunately, Wednesday night I will not be home, which is when we record it. So we're going to have to skip Muscle Talk this week, but we'll be back next week. And that is about it. And I thank you for viewing and sending the questions. And now it's time to go to the gym. And remember, like and subscribe. Oh, yeah, a word from our sponsor. I don't have one. Subscribe.